For those of you I have not had the pleasure to meet, my name is Sally Richardson. I'm the interim dean here at Tulane Law School, and we are really excited to welcome you here tonight for this celebration of scholarships, where we are able to connect our scholarship donors to the scholarship recipients. And let me just say, to start the evening off, thank you so much for all of you who are here. You all deserve a serious round of applause. We are so appreciative for every one of you in this room, for those of you who have donated, and for those of you who have chosen Tulane, in part because of the donations that have come in from people in this room. Now, it's a celebration, and so I should be all happy and excited, which is my norm. But I am actually going to start off today with maybe less than exciting news. And I should apologize to Treb and our entire development alumni team because I have not run this by them. Sorry. But I want to start off with just some facts that are what they are. Next year, for the class that enters in the fall of 2024, when you add tuition, when you add books, when you add room and board, the expectation is a law student will pay $100,000 a year to come to Tulane Law School. That is incredibly high, and that is not by any means the highest amount that a law student in this country will pay to go to law school. A top quality education is very expensive today. To provide all of the resources that we want and that our students expect us to be able to provide them. At Tulane Law School, we do not want our students to say they cannot come here simply because they cannot afford it. We want to be able to have the students that we select, the students that continue to make up our 1L class this year, 206 students that make up the highest academic credentials we have, that continue to be one of the most diverse classes we have, with 29% of our 1L class coming from traditionally underrepresented ethnic and racial backgrounds. We want to continue to attract people from all over the country, regardless of their socioeconomic status. But at $100,000 a year, that is really hard. On average, the Tulane law student is receiving a scholarship or a tuition waiver today that is taking off 40% of that bill. And we are very pleased to be able to do that. But the reality is we have to do more. Tulane Law School should be moving to an era where we can say money for the student is no object. No matter what you can afford, we can guarantee that we will be able to accept you and you will be able to come to Tulane. That is not the case yet, but that is certainly where we want to be, because scholarships are fundamental. Scholarships are crucial to being able to bring in the best, the brightest, the person who otherwise would not have the opportunity. And to see how instrumental scholarships are, I want you to first hear from one of our alums, Michael Rubenstein. He's a double Tulane grad, 1990 from the undergrad, 1993 from the law school. He is now a shareholder at Lisco and Lewis in Houston, focusing on corporate litigation, bankruptcy, business reorganization, and a very devoted Tulane Law alumni. And I'm going to bring Michael up here, despite maybe his desires. I'm going to force him to come up here. To share why scholarships are important to him and why he views this as really an important endeavor.
Nothing like having to follow Sally Richardson. And even if I wasn't a little hoarse today, I couldn't keep up with that. And Sally and I did not coordinate these remarks. I wrote them on the plane this morning, but our remarks are very simpatico. I think it's obvious that I'm devoted to Tulane, but why am I here today? It's because, as Sally says, absent the generosity of alums who came before me, I wasn't going to law school at all. I certainly wasn't going to Tulane. Now, as Sally noted, I went to undergrad here. Thanks to my parents' foresight and savings, that was possible. But by the time Tulane law school came around, fortunes had changed. They weren't in a position to help. It was entirely on me. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to go to law school. Everybody I knew, my parents, professors, everybody, oh, that's probably what you ought to do. It's probably because I just like to talk. But I wasn't sure. And I wasn't sure I wanted to, if I didn't like it after the first semester, was I going to hang around? So I had good grades. I had decent LSAT scores, still wasn't sure. And I knew I wasn't going to borrow a ton of money to give it a try and then have that debt and go do something else. So I started my application process looking for merit-based aid. I think, if I'm recalling correctly, I applied to 13 different law schools. And after 4 years at Tulane, I assumed law school was going to be somewhere else. I think part of it was I thought that going somewhere else would signify that I was finally grown. And I knew that Tulane, as the dean points out, wasn't cheap. And I got some scholarship offers elsewhere and had been admitted to Tulane, but hadn't received anything from the law school discussing money. So I called the financial aid office to find out what was going on. They said, "Oh, that was a bad idea, by the way. You'll see in a second." They said, "All the money's gone out. There's nothing else." Okay. Back then, I sent the big bright yellow card that had no printed on it, some sort of reverse psychology from the business school, I'm sure. And I sent that back. I went to visit another law school that I didn't like to interview for a scholarship. Came back, and so, went to my mailbox as I was back in town, opened it up, and there was a letter from the Dean of Admissions offering me a full tuition scholarship to Tulane that must have crossed with that yellow card in the mail. I'm like, oh my God, I've ruined my future. I'm 21 years old. What's going on? So what did I do? I grabbed the white pages. Yes, I'm old. And I found the Dean of Admissions' home phone number, and I called her. And she laughed, said she would honor the scholarship on one condition. I had to accept right then. Done. And if you called Susan Krinsky right now and mentioned my name, when she stops laughing, she will tell you that story. So that's how I wound up talking to you today. But seriously, as I said, I wasn't going to Tulane or any law school absent a scholarship. I was a finance major when a certain school in DC that the dean did not attend as an undergrad, sent me my financial aid package that was all loans, various tranches of debt. I sat down with the spreadsheet program formerly known as Lotus 123 and figured out what my payment would be when I graduated. I couldn't imagine making that much money, so that wasn't going to happen. That scholarship that I received changed my life. I made law review at Tulane. I clerked for a federal judge for 2 years, and this fall will mark 30 years since I joined Lisco and Lewis. Now, scholarships don't only create opportunities, they give you flexibility. If I had had that level of debt that, quite frankly, a lot of students these days have, I wouldn't have had the opportunity, for example, to take a 2-year district court clerkship, which I went back and looked. Back then, I made $32,000 a year. I know that would not have funded that debt in DC. And so while I chose private practice, I was able to consider every option on the table. I didn't have to go for the biggest paycheck, and quite frankly, I didn't. I went for the job that was right for me. So I continue to give my money and my time to Tulane because others did so before I was here, and that's how I was able to do it. Whether it's in the form of endowed scholarships or annual giving, literally every student in this school benefits from the generosity of the alums who came before them. So I feel very strongly it's incumbent upon those of us who were the beneficiaries of a helping hand on our way up to extend that same helping hand to those who come after us. And that's why I'm here today.
Michael has a great story for how he got to Tulane, but how lots of the students in the room got to Tulane is similar. It is because there is a scholarship that connected them. Maybe it connected them to Tulane and their passion. Maybe it connected, as with our next speaker, from their undergraduate institution to the law school. Our next speaker is Pablo Gonzalez. I was joking with the donors of his scholarship. It's really just a shame, Pablo. I mean, Pablo came to Tulane Law School having gone to Baylor, where he was the editor-in-chief of the Baylor magazine, The Bundle. He went and he got his master's of education at SMU. He has shown up here at Tulane Law School only to be taking mood lighting, only, thank you, only to become, starting next year, the first Latino editor-in-chief of the Tulane Law Review. And so I invite Pablo to the stage to talk about how his scholarship got him here to Tulane.
Thank you, Dean Richardson. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pablo Gonzalez, and I'm a 2L from Dallas, Texas. And I stand before you today with just immense gratitude and humility as a recipient of the Bryant Wood O'Bannon Scholarship. It's a pleasure to be with you all today and to be able to share how a student scholarship has provided me with access to an outstanding education only available at Tulane Law School. Now, when I think about how important scholarships have been in my legal education, I think back to when I was considering law schools. As a first-generation law student, I knew that I was going to come into law school on a slightly different stride than my peers who had firsthand experience with attorneys and their families. As the first in my family to attend law school, I truly had a limited access to knowledge about the endeavor that I was going to undertake. I knew that if I was going to realize my goal of becoming an attorney, I would have to have outside financial support. So when it came time to consider Tulane Law, my scholarship offer immediately helped me to consider Tulane more seriously. Coming out of Baylor for undergrad, upon my first visit to New Orleans, my first time ever leaving or ever coming into Louisiana, I was amazed at the environment, academic offering, and culture of the school. On my admitted student stay, I was intrigued at how Professor Griffin made the Constitution come alive in his constitutional law class. And at lunch, I was touched by how Professor Glass made a personal effort to get to know me and my lived experiences, and how they would impact my perception of the law. Lastly, I saw how much students loved the school and seemed genuinely happy to be at Tulane. And so as I began to picture myself more seriously here, I couldn't help but think about the opportunities that would be available only with a Tulane law degree. As I began to think more seriously about enrolling as my next step, my scholarship made this a more realistic option. It wasn't until my first year that I realized how many opportunities would be available to me because of my education here at Tulane. I've been able to participate in affinity groups such as the Latino Law Students Association, and been able to connect with alumni like Rafael Anchia, who have provided mentorship to me. I've been able to participate in 2 externships, one last summer at the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas with the Honorable Karen Gren Scholler in Dallas, and now in the Office of Legal Counsel with the Pan American Life Insurance Company. I've also had the honor of serving as a junior member of the Tulane Law Review, where I've been able to find my voice as a legal writer and participate in publishing legal scholarship. Inside the classroom, I've learned from professors at the forefront of their respective fields who have encouraged me to wrestle with new concepts, expand my horizons, and pursue interests in new areas of the law that I would have otherwise never considered. Next, I've been able to join a community of dedicated and caring alumni who have taken a personal interest in my success. Every time that I connect with a Tulane Law alum outside of these 4 walls, there is an instant connection, a bond driven by our motto, not for oneself, but for one's own. I've had the experience of a lifetime in this year and a half that I've been at Tulane Law. It's been everything that I could have imagined and more. And I would personally like to thank the O'Bannon family for your generosity in making my education a reality. My experience here has allowed me to charter my own path and pursue my interests, guided by an incredible community of professors, peers, alumni, and staff who have supported me. But along with them, it is you and your generous contributions to student scholarships. Without you, this would not have been possible. Your generosity has shaped my life and educational trajectory, and it serves as a reminder that it must not end with me. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to attend Tulane Law School. And it's my hope that with this generosity, I will be able to pay it forward one day so that this education may indeed not be for myself, but for the own that follow me, the next generation of attorneys who will benefit from a Tulane education. Thank you.
You know, the story of Pablo and being able to have a scholarship that connects from his undergrad institution to Tulane Law School is a common story, and so many in this room know that story. And a lot of students who come here know Tulane is where they want to be. Students like our next speaker, Katie Schimmel, who has, I think, or I should say, the great privilege of having been to the same high school that Katie went to, although I must say she came many years after me. Katie is an undergraduate from the Science and Engineering School at Tulane University. And Tulane was always her first choice, wanting to come. And as she has been here in her third year of Tulane Law School, she has achieved such great success, also serving as a member of the Tulane Law Review, the senior articles editor, and having just found out, I think a week or two ago, that her comment was going to be published in the Law Review forthcoming. And so, Katie, please come to the floor.
Thank you. A few notes that I don't mess this up, but like Dean Richardson said, my name's Katie. I'm a current 3L and I'm originally from Baton Rouge, and I've been fortunate enough to be a Tulane student for 7 years now. If you ask any of my friends, half my personality is that I love the wave. But scholarship has affected my experience at Tulane because it physically made it possible. I think if you were to ask me for both college and law school what my first choice institution was, it is without a doubt Tulane, where when applying for both phases, I would tie myself into literal knots wondering about what would happen if I did not get to attend here, with many, many calls to my mother in a panic. But I think it goes without saying that Tulane Law is not always the cheapest institution. And therefore, if it weren't for the generous scholarship that I received, I wouldn't have been able to physically be here. And for that, I cannot stress how grateful I am. But when looking back, I think at my last 7 years and my last 3 years here, I've had a lot of really unique experiences that I don't think I would have been able to have at other institutions that I had applied to. In college, I got to spend a week in Greenland studying glaciers and on the polar ice caps, which was the absolute opposite of Louisiana, and I would not recommend doing it. It was cold. And then more recently in law school, I have spent time as a student attorney in the environmental law clinic, working with local crawfishermen, helping them protect their fishing grounds. And then I spent this year as a 1L teaching students as a senior fellow, which has been a surprisingly rewarding experience. And then, like you said, I've had the opportunity and honor of being on Tulane Law Review on the board this year and having my comment published with Dean Richardson's help and advisement, which was probably one of the most exciting and fulfilling things that I've ever done, probably ever. So without fear of sounding cheesy or sappy, I wouldn't have been able to do all these things if it weren't for the scholarship that put me here. And I can never emphasize and never stop emphasizing how much this school has done for me and made me a better person. So thank you so much. I hope to one day be able to repay this in some small degree as what you've done for me, but thank you again and roll wave.
You know, scholarships do so much more than just allow students to actually attend Tulane Law School. Scholarships also allow students who are here to not have to worry about working while they are studying. There are so many opportunities while you are in law school. Our past students have talked about law review, moot court, working in different groups, working in things like the Black Law Students Association, working in the Tulane Latino Students Association, working in the Women in Law Association, working in clinics, doing externship programs that will otherwise take away time that if students didn't have scholarships, they would be thinking about how do I need to go to earn extra money. And so I now welcome to the stage Roy Wallace, a 3L student, and not just any 3L student, let me say, the 3L class president, actually, who not only has taken up great leadership roles in the Student Bar Association in her class, she has also been an exceptional member of our moot court team. Last year, Roy was on the winning team for the Black Law Students Association for the Thurgood Marshall Appellate Oral Arguments, and it was the second year in a row that Tulane took away top national prize for the oral arguments, and we look to take away a three-peat, much like the Kansas City Chiefs are looking to do. We look for it next year. Roy is coaching this year's team, so thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. And I invite you to the stage, Roy, to share about your scholarship experience.
Of course.
Ooh.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name, as Dean Richardson said, is Roy Wallace, and I get to speak to you this evening because I am the first recipient of the William G. Duck Endowed Scholarship Fund. And it means so much to me because, as my colleagues have said, without this scholarship, I would not be standing in front of you today. I recently found out this past semester in October at homecoming that I was a recipient of this scholarship, thanks to Treb. I don't know where he's at. And he came up to me at homecoming, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and he says, "Roy, right?" And I'm thinking it's because I have a name tag on, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, hi." And he goes, "No," and he explains to me that I am the recipient of this endowed scholarship fund, and that Jerry Duck, the man who created this scholarship, is also the first person to match his scholarship with the Ullman family and the Next Wave Fund. So it's a very big deal, and I'm super ecstatic to be here tonight and to speak with you all. I have told a lot of people this. Before I came to law school, Tulane was my first choice. It was my top choice. I wanted to come here. I wanted to move to New Orleans, and I wanted to be in this city. But of course, starting law school, I was apprehensive. And so I told myself that coming in, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm not going to be involved that much, and I'm just going to kind of get through my 3 years. I can tell you by my schedule this week, next week, and the week after that did not happen. And I am probably one of the most involved students here. And it's because as soon as I stepped on campus and I realized the magnitude of having a scholarship and being able to attend this school, that I have to be out there. I have to take every opportunity, and I have to make it mine, and that's what I've done. My 1L year, I came in full swing, and I was 1L vice president. 2L year, I became 2L class president. Like Dean Richardson said, I competed in moot court with my partner, Brianna. She's up there. I was a BOLSA member. I've been a sports law member. This year, I am class president. I'm a head coach for moot court. And I say all of this to say that without my scholarship and without Jerry Duck, I couldn't have completed any of these things, and I wouldn't be in such the position that I am today to be speaking in front of you all. I don't think that anything I say up here could express the amount of gratitude that I have for the alumni and the donors and Jerry Duck, who couldn't be here tonight, but I hope he's watching, or I'll get to speak with him later. So yeah, I want to end this by saying that the community that I've been brought into at Tulane is exceptional, and it is I think it's hard to describe because you don't really expect to have this type of allegiance to your law school, but I do, and I am ecstatic to be here and ecstatic to graduate from this school and become an alumni and share that with you all. So thank you. And
that level of allegiance that so many alums and so many of you in the building have is seen by a lot of folks. And so since you are here tonight, we are going to show a preview of a video that's actually coming out on Give Green Day. Give Green is coming up in April. You can open your pocketbooks tonight or then, don't worry. But we have a video I want to share with all of you.
I'm a proud Tulane Law graduate, and I give to ensure the continued success of the school.
Giving to Tulane is one way that we can continue to benefit society, to help strengthen the respect for the rule of law, which I think is the foundation of our society, and also to provide opportunities to people to study at Tulane who might not otherwise have that opportunity.
The reason I give to Tulane Law School is that 30 years ago, somebody took a chance on me. Somebody was willing to give and donate, somebody I don't even know, to open those doors of opportunity for me, the son of immigrants, that has really propelled not only me, but really my entire family from where we were to where we are now.
And as I reflect upon where I am today and the opportunities that have been provided to me, I realize that a lot of that wouldn't have been possible without going to law school here and being at Tulane. So my giving back now, in a sense, is my way of thinking Tulane.
Yeah, the benefits of giving are feeling like I'm still connected to the Tulane community, which is such an important part of, kind of my identity.
Don't forget the people who invested in you when you were a young student here at Tulane Law School.
Give whatever you're comfortable giving, no matter how small and no matter how large.
I want to continue to see the university excel and be successful, and without alumni support and resources, you can't do that. And if you love New Orleans and you love Tulane, giving back to Tulane is also giving back to New Orleans.
I think it's really important that when we are in a position to help others, that we do. In fact, it is not only something nice to do, it really is our obligation.
I give to Tulane Law School because I'm grateful for what Tulane provided to me, and because I think it's the right thing to do.
When we think about the giving to Tulane Law School, one of the individuals in the video we just saw, we're going to bring up to the stage next, Michael Lee. Michael Lee, class of 1994, and actually a 3 Tulane Law grad, bachelor's, master's, and JD. So y'all still have more degrees you can earn. Don't worry. There's more out there. But, Michael has served as the director for Abbott Downey in the Chicago office. He has helped advise clients on wealth management, on tax issues, a man who certainly knows quite a bit about money, I will say. And I invite him to the stage to talk about why he gives and why scholarships are so crucial and fundamental to the law school.
Oh, following this group, my gosh. I'm thinking about Michael and preparing notes. I kind of did that. Probably the least prepared of all of the lawyers in this room. But I will simply say thank you, Sally, for putting this together. I think that it's a wonderful experience to put faces and names together and hear the stories, because it only makes things more concrete and tangible to me. And of course, I'm privileged to be here to speak in front of you, but also to be a Tulane Law graduate. I can't imagine what my career path would have been like without this institution. I did get 1 degree not from here. Don't worry, they don't get any money. I love this school, except for the fact that they said they want me to speak, but they didn't tell me on what. So we'll talk about scholarship. Shep goes, you've got a great story. So I will be as brief as possible, because I think I'm the only thing standing between you and refreshments. So this actually started, my commitment to the law school in this way started in 2014. It was at my 20-year law school reunion, and we were at one of our colleagues' houses. And it was just such a wonderful time, and meeting people who would come. And quite candidly, if you asked me back in 1994 when we graduated, are any of you going to the reunion? The answer would have been no, with some words before that. And there were 2 really good reasons for it. The first was we were the last class to graduate from Merrick Jones Hall. So we got to watch this get built. We got the open house. We saw how lovely this was. You never experienced the submarine. And the other reason, and I say this with a tremendous love for Andy and his family, was the dean at the time was John Kramer. John's a wonderful guy. He was innovative in the pro bono program. He did a lot, and as I like to say to everybody, John was the kind of guy that he would walk by a puddle and just find a stick and muddy it up just to see what would happen. It was a wonderful man, certainly provocative and at times divisive, but just made us so much better. But to come back 20 years later and see all of us enjoying each other, sincerely enjoying each other, and the successes we'd all accomplished was really energizing. And I remember this was a house not on one of the fancy streets up here. Walking back to my rental car, just so happy to see how my friends and colleagues have been successful in so many different ways. And I had that moment of self-reflection of, this is really because we all came to Tulane. So how can I say thank you? And there are plenty of, I shouldn't be too cynical because I know a number of development people in the room, but there are plenty of ways to give to Tulane. It's bricks and mortar, there's scholarship, faculty and help. But for me and my family, it was always about educating people. It was always about let's give people the opportunity to learn, right? And a long time ago, right, one of the hallmarks of Tulane was a lifelong love of learning, people who are naturally inquisitive. So that was sort of the basis for the idea of scholarship. And then some started to think, well, we can't just give a Tulane Law Scholarship. How do you measure, like, who should be the audience? And same thing, we looked back at my family. My father was a civil engineer. My mother was a microbiologist. And if you kind of do it, she was an innovator in her time, because women in college were not exactly the norm back then. And then, of course, I was the professional student here at Tulane and spent more money than you did. But again, so I also learned that on the outside, and to some people, science and engineering majors made terrible lawyers. Michael's shaking his head no, and he gets that. And I thought, well, challenge accepted. And they said, you know, engineers can't write properly. They can't think properly. They can't do a lot of things that history majors, English majors, sociology majors, all those other degree people can do. I'm like, fine, game on. So we specifically decided, you know, we're going to support people whose backgrounds are science and engineering. And it was important because we wanted this particular group to realize you're valued and appreciated, and there are opportunities ahead of you. So that was really why we narrowed it down. And it was really to send that message to the students. I was really lucky tonight. I got to meet Marilyn and Whitney, who both came up, lovely women, far better students than I ever was. And I'm so proud to hear that they were the recipients. So well done, and thank you, Tulane. The last thing I'm going to simply say is congratulations and best wishes to all of the scholarship recipients. I wish you only the best and continued success, and I hope that you will continue to pay it forward, whether here or in any other way that resonates with you. But the fabric of who we are as a country has to be helping others. Last thing I'll share with you, and I hate saying last thing because there's always, oh yeah, and one more. Education has always been important to my family. My father, this is for the donors, because the students, he probably read about it in history books maybe, but the rest of us lived it. My father was an immigrant from China with a college degree. When he came here, they didn't recognize the value of his college degree. So he ended up going back to school and working at night. He was the elevator operator, he worked the catering jobs, he did whatever it took and got his degree in civil engineering. But he came from, as my mother would tell you, red China nowadays. He would tell me stories about how, you know, back then, people would disappear at night. People would get things taken away from them. And I'm sorry if I get a little emotional. But what he stressed was, an education is the only thing that no one can take away from you. So that's from here. Now, this is a gift for Sally. 94 is my 30th reunion. Tulane, as you know, has gone through a wonderful campaign, and now we're on our second one called Only the Audacious. Sally, I find Tulane's tuition for law school audacious. That word works both ways. But this is what I'm going to do because I do appreciate audacity. I'm committing to doubling the value of our scholarship.
Well, that certainly deserves Believe me, it does. Thank you all, to all of the speakers, to all of the donors, to all of the students. The reason that we all are here tonight is truly because of you, the students who are in the room, and the students who will come through these halls after. That is what Tulane Law School is all about. And so thank you. Thank you for coming to what is truly a celebration of the folks who have come before, for the folks who are here today, and for the folks who will come in the future. To all of you, I toast to all of you, and I will not stop you from going to get a drink, but thank you. Here is to you.